Good evening. I'd like to call to order the North Branford regular meeting for November 7th, 2024. Please remove your cap and join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission seated here tonight. To my left is Ron Sienna, a regular member. To his left is Paul Marino, an alternate member of the commission. And on the far left is Janet Crane, a recording secretary. To the right of me is Barry Ponder, a regular member of the commission. And seated at the far end is David Perkins, the town planner. My name is Robert Nowak. I'm the chairman for the commission seated tonight. Paul Marino is going to be seated for this meeting and a full voting member. Next order on the agenda is to consider the approval of meeting minutes from September 19th, 2024 and October 17th, 2024. I'd ask commission members to review the meeting minutes. Let me know if you have any corrections or adjustments, and then when you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as noted.
The agenda? I didn't print it out.
You need a clean copy of it? September 17th.
Oh,
September 19th.
am I here?
Yeah?
No.
You, Barry, and myself.
We're here for September. Yeah.
I motion we accept the minutes dated October 17th and the minutes of September 19th.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
One more time, Ron.
You gotta talk into it really loud, I think.
No, it's on.
It's on.
Okay,
There you go.
can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, there's nothing but administrative. I motion we accept the minutes of September 19th and October 17th.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second to approve the minutes for September 19th and October 17th. Any discussion? Just a reminder, September 19th was Barry, myself, and Ron. October 17th was Ron, Paul, and myself. Okay? So all in favor, I got to do them independently because there's two meeting minutes. You got a motion for both of them. They're both second, so with that being said, and the understanding that Barry's on one of them and not on the other, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'd like to accept the motion for,
September 19th is Barry.
I'm sorry?
September 19th is Barry. We can vote on that.
Okay.
I'll abstain from the October.
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained for September 19th?
You have to abstain.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a 3-1 carry on September 19th. October 17th is 3-0 as opposed, because Bill wasn't present, not here today, so passes 3-0 for October 17th. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public hearing, continuation of possible action for 2 applications. Application 2023-23, 1071 Foxen Road, and 1024-22 amendment to the zoning regs for lighting and poultry livestock. Would the applicant come up to the podium and tell us how you made out?
Get out. I can't hear you.
John Rienzo, 1071 Foster Road. A picture of the fence and the color of the
You
building.
gotta hold it really up by your mouth.
I have a picture of the fence and the color of the building going in.
Yeah.
6-foot stockade fence.
Premium color. The castle stone. Castle stone.
Here's the building, just for reminders.
That's the drawing.
Yeah, here, I'll show you.
Stuff.
John, where was the fence at on the plan?
This is Foxen.
So, right now, there's an existing fence that runs over here to about here. So where that fence ends with the tree line, we'll bring the new fence all the way. So basically, behind the building, will be a fence the whole way by.
Right here. Thank you. John, was there any other, or Dave, was there buffering between the adjacent property behind? I thought there was, and that's what we're going to use, the fence?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Commissioners, Dave, you have any questions or comments relative to the application and the input of that
I
information?
think those are the 2 items that we requested John to bring back.
Okay. Gotcha. Commissioners have any questions or comments for the applicant relative to the application? Okay. Thank you, John. So this is a continuation of a public hearing from the last meeting, and the opportunity, the notices didn't go out in a timely manner, so we wanted to extend this public hearing to today. So I'd asked, actually, if there's anyone wanting to speak in favor of the proposal in front of us, would anyone like to speak in favor of it? Would anyone like to speak in favor of it? Hearing none, anybody in opposition to the application in front of us? Anyone in opposition to? Opposition to the public hearing on this item? Hearing none, then I'll move to close the public hearing.
I motion we close the public hearing.
We have a motion to close. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Public hearing is closed. Anybody have any questions, concerns for this application in front of us? No, sir. No, there was no opposition, and there was no one here to oppose the project. So with that being said, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the application as noted.
Oh, I got it.
Come on.
I move to approve planning and zoning application number 2024-23, special use and site plan request under section 23, schedule A, line A-2 and C11 for construction of a new detached garage for business use with one office and one apartment on the second floor, along with site improvements at 1071 Foxen Road, Assessor Map 25, Lot 10A, Zone B1, owner applicant John Renzo, as contained in submitted application documents and plans and site plan entitled 1071 Foxen Road, North Branford, Connecticut, septic site plan, prepared by Noffice and Young Engineers Incorporated, dated March 16, 2023. With the following standard conditions: 1C, 2, 4, 7, 8, 9, 13.
You want to add the castle stone siding and the 6-foot stockade fence running from the property line between the building and the east and west property lines.
Say that again. 6 foot.
6-foot stockade fence extending from the building east and west. We'll read it.
And with the special conditions that a 6-foot stockade fence extended from east and west, utilizing castle stone siding.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Ron. The motion is to approve the construction of a detached garage for business use with one office and one apartment on the second floor. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 4-0. Congratulations, John, you're all set. Next item on our public hearing continuation is for application for lighting and poultry and livestock. Before I begin, I wanted to, we already approved the minutes for October 17th, Janet, but could we make a correction? I apologize. Could we make a correction to one of the persons who testified? We misspelled their name. We have Caroline Papa. It should be Caroline Papa. K-I-N-E.
P-A-P-P-A?
Yep, P-A-P-A. Thank you, Janet. Sorry about that. So public hearing, we have a lot of people here, so I wanted to read a little statement on how we're going to conduct the public hearing, very similar to how we conducted the chickens, but for those who are first time here to a public hearing in front of the commission or any commission for the town, procedure for our public hearing will be conducted as follows. The purpose of the meeting is to hear all pertinent testimony of those in support of and opposition to the application before the commission. Public hearing will be open. Testimony will be heard for the following order: the applicant explaining their application, staff and commissioners asking questions or comments on the application, General public will have an opportunity to speak in support of, in opposition to the application in the form of statements and questions. Staff and commission will again have an opportunity to comment. When all sides have spoken, the public hearing will be closed. No further public discussion will be entertained. After the public hearing is closed, the commission will vote on the application. Some of the rules regarding the public testimony: when addressing the commission, please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record. All comments should be addressed to the commission, not the applicant. Be relevant to the application and should not be of a personal nature. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Once your time has expired, please be respectful of the commission and other members of the public who want to speak. Please try to avoid repetitive comments. Once public hearing is concluded, out of respect for this body, we kindly ask that the audience take any discussion about the results outside the chamber so we may continue with our business, or you can stay and listen to the rest of our meeting. Just another general statement. I want to remind everyone that this commission is comprised of volunteers who live in town and want to serve their community. We are not paid for our time. We come from various backgrounds and provide a different perspective on every issue presented before the commission. The commission's role is to address land use in North Branford. The use of land is covered by our regs in conjunction with the plan of conservation and development. In addition, we rely on experienced and qualified employees of the North Branford Police and Fire Department, along with our engineering and planning departments, to ensure the health and safety aspects are considered through their agency's point of views. We also rely on the town attorney to ensure we are kept within the policy and procedures of state law and town ordinances. The commission takes into consideration all points of views, then we decipher fact from hypothetical, compare these facts against the regs, and decide what is in the best interest of all town residents in North Branford. We then render our decision based on common sense, logic, reason, based on the factors noted above. Similar to last meeting, we had the line items are tagged together, the lighting and the chickens, poultry. What I'd like to do is discuss the chickens first, because I think we made a lot of headway since the last meeting, and I'll conclude with the lighting regs. Just some history of where we came from with from the last public hearing. This is a continuation from the chicken discussion last year. 3 weeks ago, and I don't see the chicken man in the audience. He was a great entertainment value from last time. Gotcha. So some of the takeaways from last meeting was the lack of information by the planning and zoning regulating to the public. So it was kind of a shock that the regulations came out the way they did. The same thing with the lighting regs. And so we were able to revise the chicken regs and post those on the North Branford website. There's 2 locations to find anything relative to our public hearing. One is on the home page for the town of North Branford under the calendar section for the date of the meeting and public hearings. And in the public hearing section, you'll find the regs for the chickens or poultry. The other avenue is in the North Branford homepage under the planning and zoning tag that brings you right to the page for planning and zoning, and then the lower right-hand side, there's a line item called quick links, and in there's also where you can find regulations that are being proposed. They're the 2 locations. So what I'd like to do is kind of briefly go through the regulations that we revised for everyone who haven't looked at them just quite yet. So some of the additional takeaways was enforcement. Some people, there was someone from last testimony, someone had 50 to 100 chickens on a half acre. Maintenance of the birds, or I believe the word is husbandry, lack of husbandry, animal husbandry. Poor food containment, waste management, and like anything else, we're here because of noise and smell. So we kind of readdressed our regulations that was a combination of 6 towns. Stafford, Branford, Greenwich, Hamden, New Haven, and Ellington is where we came up with our regulations to further improve and identify where the problem is. Obviously, it's not with the farmers in town. That was never our intent. It didn't seem that way the first time because of the fact that we crossed out the entire regulation, so I can see why everyone was up in arms. We codified that by saying that in the regulation, the current fact is that it says that no livestock or poultry shall be kept on a lot less than 16,000 square feet, which is about 3 2/3 acres. The definition of farms is over 3 acres are exempt from this regulation. Any of the changes that we proposed is already governed by Federal Right to Farm Act, the Federal Farm Bill, and any federal and state regulations pertaining to farming, agriculture, and the Connecticut Public Health Code. So we excluded from our regulation anything to do with any farm in town greater than 3 acres. And we wanted to focus on those who are really the concern. So based on some of the information we got previously from the towns and a guidance document that was produced by the state of Connecticut from 2019, we divvied up the size of the lots into a more manageable, more, I think, a more appropriate. We learned from last testimony and information that basically you can't buy 3 chickens. You have to buy them in lots of 6, basically. So we crafted a regulation based on a lot of 6. The old regulation said that you can have 20. We increased the current regulation to 24 because it's a lot of 6. So that's what we did. Basically, it said the number of chickens on a parcel, 15,000 square feet or less, which is about 1/3 of an acre, can have 6 chickens without a permit. Over 15,000 square feet, you can have 12. Over 40,000 square feet, you can have 24 with no permit. So anyone with 15,000 square feet can have 6, with the caveat that without a permit, 6, and 12 over 15,000. If you wanted more, you can go up to 24 poultry, just like everyone else. But we put a little caveat on that you need to submit a building permit. In that, a plot plan showing where the buildings are, post location of your coop, fencing enclosure, and the distance to residents of adjacent properties. Once approved, the enclosure can be moved within your area or lot without a new permit. Notification of adjacent property owners via certified mail and posting signage on the property at locations adjacent to public streets and abutting property. And the reason why we're asking you to notify your neighbors is that's why we're here. Someone complained, someone wasn't doing their job to have chickens, and the smell and the noise became too much, and they complained. So if you can get your neighbors on board, now granted, I would assume everybody in here is good with your neighbors. If you have chickens, I'm sure you have abundance of eggs and you're making them happy by giving them eggs or passing them out or whatever you're doing. That's fine. But it all becomes being good neighbors. We can't regulate good neighbors, only you guys can that have the chickens. So this is the reason why we have this the way it is. Without having some guardrails to manage your chickens, we would be right where we are again if we leave the regulations just the way they are, with people complaining. Regardless of where they live or whoever they are, at least there's a boundary for those new people who come into town and will have chickens. This regulation and these changes did not affect anyone in town who has chickens currently, whatsoever, 0. Some of the other issues associated with this was the setbacks. The regulation used to contain language that said that you needed to have your structure, your building and enclosure 25 feet away from your property line, sideline, and 30 feet from the back of your property line, and 50 feet from the front. We haven't changed anything from the front, so it's still going to be 50 feet from your front property line. Besides, as I said last time, I wanted to revise the regs to reflect more reality to what you folks are doing with your coops. Now, I don't own chickens, but I drive around town and I can see chicken coops right along the fence line. My neighbor up the street has them, and it is what it is. So we revised it from, again, if it was, you had 15,000 square feet, you take 50 feet from the front and 25 from the sides and 30 from the back, you're not left with a lot of property. And if you have a built-in, you have above ground pool, how much room do you really have for chickens? Now, is it our job to go out there and make sure you have enough room for chickens? No. We're not going to police you and, oh, that lot's not big, that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is just to manage the use of your property within the guidelines or the guardrails. So we changed the guardrails from 25 feet to 10 feet to reflect more reality to what you folks do with your chickens and anybody who new comes in town. So you can have 10 feet from the side, 10 feet from the back. The other caveat here is that in some of the regulations that we looked at, on the smaller lots, New Haven has 6 chickens on 8,000 square feet lots. Now New Haven is a tight city community, right? So their measurement is from the neighbor. So that's why I threw this in there for those on small lots. Why don't you measure from the residence of your neighbor's house to where your chicken coop is, measure 50 feet, right? So that gets you within 10 feet of your property and everybody's happy. So we're trying to manage your neighbors in the use of your property. We also increased decreased again for those 1 acre or less. Right, we said that it was 50 feet from the front, 10 from the side, and 50 feet from the residence. So we have 15,000 square feet through 40,000 square feet, and then we went from 1 acre, we included those individuals with that. We still said free range of backyard poultry is prohibited on lots 15,000 square feet or less. As noted before, we are a farming community who doesn't like chickens walking down their neighborhood. But I think it's a little difficult for those who have 15,000 square feet, and that's really what the focus is on those individuals. Some of the other components to this was we brought into our regulations compliance with pollution of public watersheds by state law 25-43, regulation of the Connecticut state agencies for sanitation of watersheds. We did add a component for screening, so if you're on a smaller lot, like third or less, 15,000 square feet, we'd like to have you, from any distance from the street line, we'd like to have some kind of visual barrier, whether it be a fence or landscaping buffer, so we don't want to see your coop. I mean, one of the other issues was, I never heard of chicken condo, but that someone brought it up last meeting about a chicken condo. So we kind of brought something in here that we'd like those individuals who have structures and enclosures to have their chicken coops be clean, odor-free, kept in a neat sanitary condition at all times with adequate light and ventilation in a manner that would not disturb the use or enjoyment of neighboring lots due to noise, odor, or other adverse impacts. Again, we're not imposing any of these regulations on those folks who have chickens now. We got out of the waste management business and just directed you in the regulations to Public Health Code 19-13-B21. And then we also made intervals of how you're going to not create a nuisance defined by Public Health Code 1913-B1. Then we revert back to the original regulations where livestock shall be kept on lots less than 3 acres, provided all the buildings and enclosures and feed and poultry and pasture fencing setbacks are met by the standard noted above. We didn't mess with livestock. You must still have at least 80,000 square feet. We didn't identify what that is. It's 1.84 acres for one animal. Another 40,000 square feet, which is 0.92 acres for the second animal, for a total of 2 animals on 2.76 acres. We never addressed that, even though I know for a fact, just in my neighborhood, at 0.92 acre lots have at least 3 goats. And that's for another discussion at another time, not in this realm. We did change the setback for those less than 3 acres, again, to 10 feet. So that kind of summarizes where we're at with the regulations, and that, again, can be found in the public hearing section of the calendar. With that being said, what I'd like to do is open up to further public discussion. Again, it's 3 minutes. So whoever would like to come up, I'll open it up to the floor for public hearing. Thank you for reminding me. So those in support of the regulations as revised can come up and make a comment. Anybody in support of the new regulations? Anybody in support of? Okay. Hearing none, then I'll move to anybody in opposition to the regulations. You have to talk into the microphone, Kara. Thank you.
Kara, K-A-R-A, C-A-R-O-L-I-N-E, P-A-P-A.
Oh, wait a minute, say that again, Carol?
Kara, Caroline Papa.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for revising. I appreciate the conversation. We did meet a couple of times. The first week we didn't have the revised regulation, and the second week we did. And we do have some questions, and we came to the consensus together that we just want to ask you, please take the application away. We appreciate the work you put in. I appreciated listening to you just now, but I don't think that we're there yet. And I'll tell you, I did my research. I researched the laws. I went driving around town to the quarter-acre lots that were pointed out by the board last time. The leaves are down off the trees. You can see everything. In the neighborhoods that were pointed out, I did not see any chickens. I didn't smell anything with my windows down. So I don't see an imminent problem right now that we're trying to solve. I did reach out to Mr. Perkins, and I did meet with Mr. Perkins, and I asked him, who's gonna count these 24 chickens? I believe it was pointed out by some of the farmers in town earlier in the last meeting also that, oh, I'm gonna lose my train of thought now. Something about the setbacks and the regulations were pointed out about the chickens. I just lost my thought on that. But either way, we think that you should take the regulation away. Let's just remove the application. Let's do some other things in town. We do now have a setup where we want to get people to collaborate and come out and talk and do more of that. And if we want to revisit later, now I remember what I was going to say, because it just goes back also to, you pointed out the public health code, and like you said, you're not enforcing anything, you're just creating these rules. So before we create these rules, let's make sure that we have the problems. Let's make sure we're all on board and comfortable with what rules that we think that we need in our agricultural-based town, and then do it again. So just, please just remove the application and open to revisiting with a collaborative view later.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Bornba, and
Address, please.
2305 Fox Road. I've got my phone here. I'm going to turn the timer on because I don't want to rush, and I don't want to go too long. So here we go. Okay, can you hear me now? All right. So I really, Mr. No, I appreciate your sense of humor and your great smile. So that said, I'd like to sort of go into this with hopefully a little joke for you. Ask a surgeon if you need surgery. What's he gonna say? Yes. Zoning board, if you need zoning, what are they gonna say? Yes, you need rules. Perhaps not. I was really happy when I left that last meeting, albeit a little earlier because I had to get up early. You had said that maybe you guys were going to consider, just canning those rules altogether. And I thought, boy, this is great. This man can think outside of the box. I thought it would never happen in zoning. This is really a rare man who who could do this. And then when Kara told me that, they're going to rewrite the rules again, I was quite sad because we have this blight law, which could be used if there's stink and crap and unsightly buildings that we could use. I mean, we went over that. And there's all these things that weren't considered. 24 is not necessarily 24. A large fowl chicken, a standard Brahma is a bird this big. A bantam chicken, an old English chicken, is a chicken that's this big. Okay? So 24 of these and 24 of these are two totally different 24s. Now, I wrote you an email. I never got a response. I sent it into town hall. I don't know what happened. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever come to anything town hall-wise, so I don't know if replies or something that get replied to. But anyway, I have 27 seconds. So anyway, that's that. But 24 is 24. Blight is blight. We have a blight commission, and ask a surgeon if you need surgery. Thanks, guys.
I don't know if I'm speaking in favor of the proposal or not. It's just what my feelings are about keeping chickens.
Can I be
Is
named?
that appropriate?
Name and address.
I'm sorry?
Name and address.
Oh, yeah. Julius Marcarelli, M-A-R-C-A-R-E-L-L-I. I live on 31 Old Post Road in Northwood. Perhaps my experience about keeping chickens is unique to me, but I'm sure that everybody who's here shares the same feelings that we all have for keeping birds to begin with. For me, it's kind of a link to my past, going back to my childhood when I was just a little kid watching my grandmother tending to this broody hen, which was very nasty, in the corner of one of the barns. And one day there was a whole clutch of eggs under her. The next day there were all these little chicks just peeping out from under this hen. For me, it was my very first experience with life's continuity. You know, there's a poet that once said, that life has a way of continuing itself. And so for me, that was an experience as a kid. When I was a kid growing up in New Haven during the Second World War, nearly everybody on my block, the whole street was only 3 blocks long. Most of them were 2- and 3-family houses. Every one of them had a victory garden in the backyard. Some of them even had the front yard ripped up and had a victory garden. And almost everybody had a chicken coop. Some people raised rabbits. There was one lady on the end of the block who even had a milk goat. It was a time of scarcity and rationing. And so even though these things were not, your primary source of income or even your primary source of supplement, it surely did help out during a time of scarcity. I think there's a certain sense of security in feeling that one has some small control over one's life during a time when it feels as though life is controlling us. And I think we all go through those times. The recent pandemic, with its shortages and empty grocery shelves, was a real shock to a lot of people, especially the young people who had never been without anything. But for a lot of us older folks, it was just a very unpleasant reminder of earlier times of scarcity when it was common to have empty shelves and not being able to buy things. There was a time when you could only buy one pair of shoes a year. That would be a real shocker to some people. It occurs to me that, there are sounds and smells that evoke very deep feelings in people. for me, they can transport me right back to a very specific time in the past. The smell of the seashore, for example, for most of us who live here, it brings me right back to riding the trolley to Double Beach with my mom and all the kids on a summer day. The whole basket full of stuff that we would be there, because we'd be there all day long. You didn't just leave. You stayed there from morning until night. But a rooster crowing or a hen bragging about a new egg does the same thing for me. I like to hear it. It's an emotional thing. You know,
Julius, can you wrap it up for us, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
From beyond that, though, you know, having a few chickens for me establishes an enforced routine. They need to be fed and watered. Coops have to be cleaned, eggs have to be collected. For me, it's not really work. But, you know, it also establishes for me a routine. Gets me out of my chair, gets me to do something else, move around. It reminds me of the commercial on TV about shingles. You know, shingles doesn't care. Well, the chickens don't care. They don't give a damn whether you're hungry or whether you don't feel like getting up. They need to be fed. And so, I just feel that keeping a few hens provides an essential aspect of who we are as human beings, because it gives us an opportunity to be able to provide something tangible that's not wrapped in plastic, doesn't come in a styrofoam box. If you want to give somebody some eggs, they came from your house and you helped. So that's my thing. Thank you.
Kelly Dolan, 88 Hill Road. I want to start by saying I really appreciate the changes you've made, because I think they do illustrate that you did listen to us last time and you really took that into account, and you were trying to be conscientious of our concerns. So I can see the amount of research that went into it and the effort, and I do appreciate that. But I do want to back up Kara's statement of, I think we would prefer, rather than the application be withdrawn. I think one of our concerns is that the comparisons to New Haven and Greenwich and those towns with definitely a different charism than the agricultural nature of North Branford, and I think what we're hopefully all trying to be, isn't quite the right fit. And I think the diverse nature of our plots of land and the way we're implementing our little husbandry activities there, it's not exactly a one-to-one ratio. And the specificity of these regulations, I think, is what is going to be the challenge, because it doesn't allow the nuance of how an agricultural town would allow its individuals to apply that to their unique situation. I do think it would be better handled by the blight laws, because then it's more directed towards the nuisance aspect of how people are implementing their chicken keeping, rather than one example would be the manure maintenance as it was written. It doesn't take into account things like, if you are doing your victory garden, the composting you would do. I know for my chickens, I never actually remove it. I'm not bagging and tagging and putting it in the dumpster. I'm getting large amounts of wood chips and leaves and mixing it in. There's no smell, but in the spring, that all goes into my garden, and I got some pretty decent tomatoes going on. So I would implore you to, rather than add this level of specificity, which would be very difficult to work with, to rather withdraw it and find a way for us to better implement the blight laws, so that we really can address the concerns that are the genuine concerns that have come up by some of the residents, or where the chicken maintenance just hasn't been well done. Thank you.
Good evening. I just would like to apologize. I did come in late. My
Name and
name is
address.
Tabitha,
Thank you.
O-P-I-E, 18 Lee Road. So I may have missed a few things in the beginning. I just wanted to reiterate, from a health standpoint, all of the hormones and chemicals that are put in our foods in the grocery store. Think about that. Think about what our children have been eating. Think about the different diabetes and disabilities and medical things that these kids have endured because of all of the different chemicals put in our food. This is organic when we're doing it at home. We know what our chickens are eating. We know what our family is eating. They're getting all natural, raw ingredient. So I just wanted to point that out. So I just would love for you to get rid of this, like I said at the last hearing, and enforce the rules we already have in place. That is the biggest problem. We have rules already. Who's enforcing those? Why are we going to create more and not be able to enforce them either? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon Missio, 45 Great Hill Road in North Branford. And I was not at the last meeting. I was actually on a cruise ship hearing all about chickens. And I wanted to thank you for tabling this, revisiting it, coming up with another solution. However, I don't think we're quite there yet. I currently have 2 building lots. I have an acre, a little bit over an acre and a half, and I have an acre and a half. And I have chickens. I have 23 chickens on my acre, a little bit over an acre and a half. I think it's 1.55 acres. My neighbors did not even know I had chickens. My chickens are quiet. They had no idea. It's all on how you take care of your chickens. And I can tell you that people that have a large amount of chickens take care of them in this town. I've never had any instances where I've come across chickens running around. I've never had anyone talk about smells of chickens. I also think that it's good responsibility for young children. I have 2 kids, 4.5 and 5. And they take care of the chickens, they water the chickens, they feed the chickens, they take care of them. They look for things that I tell them to look for. They know about predators, they know about unsafe territories. And I think that the people that are homesteading to an extent, and I would not call myself a homesteader because I still go to Stop and Shop in Big Y. However, I do try and have some sustainability within my own acre and a half. Another thing, when I was just reading quickly through your proposed information that you just, sent out, the proposed regulation, there's definitely some more tweaking that needs to be made. So you mentioned that you knew about the 6 chickens that you can buy at one time. So obviously this doesn't affect me because I have over an acre. However, for the, I think it's 1/3 of an acre, you had mentioned 6 chickens. Okay, so 6 chickens on 1/3 of an acre, okay, whatever. But what happens when those chickens get older? You're just gonna kill the chickens? You're not gonna get the egg production in order to be sustainable. So you need to be able to buy or produce more chicken eggs, more baby chicks in order to supply your eggs. Okay, so you need at least 10 chickens because as the chickens get older, they don't necessarily die off, they become pets. And then by the time another cycle of chickens comes through, so really you need 12, because I did my math wrong, because you have to buy in 6s, right? So unless you have a rooster, see what I'm saying? So that's not gonna work, it just won't work. And so I think that although you guys did a lot of homework on these, I think some more needs to get done if you really need to have rules on this. I don't think that you do. And I think 24 chickens for an acre, I think you really shouldn't have a limit, honestly. You want to put no hen houses, no 100 chickens, fine. But like I said, I have 1.55 acres, 23 chickens. My neighbors had no clue, and I have rowdy neighbors. I have neighbors that call the town on everything.
and they never called on the chickens. They didn't even know I had chickens for at least 3 years. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Hello. It's my first time at a town council meeting, so it's actually also my birthday. Figured this will be more fun than celebrating. So my name's Eric Bernald. I live on 1811 Middletown Avenue.
What was your name again?
Bernald is the last name. So just a couple comments. I agree with the last gentleman who spoke. I forgot his name, but I'm here with my wife. We actually recently moved into Northford, and I think one of the main reasons we were drawn to the town is because of the rural nature and the agricultural vibe of this part of the state. And I just think, in general, just having that is a great place to raise a family. We thought, and we understand it's a big challenge for you guys to be able to balance, the complaints of some of the townsfolk and kind of come up with regulations that work for everyone. It's not going to be possible. Obviously, you have people who, can't stand the sound of children yelling and laughing outside, or people with pools having pool parties, or even dogs, frankly, barking, which can get on people's nerves, so we get all that. I think my main point is, I would caution against the proclivity to move forward on regulations. It's always harder to undo something that's been done rather than, as opposed to putting it, through in the first place. So I always believe in a conservative measure when coming up with new regulations. And just in general, I think chickens are gaining popularity, and like the gentleman previously said, with the pandemic and everything, people get scared, and they want to be able to, potentially support themselves with fresh organic food. I mean, my wife and I are vegan, but we eat the eggs that we make because we trust them and we know that they're organic. So I mean, the main point of bringing up is just to say I caution against putting new regulations when there are still questions to be answered. It's always harder to undo these things once they're put in place. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Victoria Caroline, 63 Great Hill Road, North Branford, Connecticut. I've lived on Great Hill Road now since the 60s. I've had horses, I've had cows, I've had pigs, I've had chickens and rabbits, and my daughter lives next door to me currently, and when I'm out of eggs, I call and go, "Can Mom have some eggs, please?" You guys have regulations. Why don't we enforce them instead of writing new regulations? Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to speak in opposition to? Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Thank you very much. A lot of great points everyone made relative to our ongoing chicken discussion. And what I'd like to do again is do a little bit more research, some more homework, and figure out exactly what works for the town that we represent, since we get paid the big bucks to make these decisions. We just got a recent raise of 0.0, excuse me. So anyway, what I'd like to do for this public hearing is give us one more shot at this, and I'd like to continue this public hearing one more time to the next meeting, which is the 21st of November. So with that being said, that concludes our chicken discussion. Thank you for coming. Next item on the agenda is our lighting regulations. Unfortunately, similar to the chicken regulation, like I was saying before, there wasn't an opportunity for an advanced copy of the regulations that went out. Well, they're out there now. And quite frankly, there's a lot of problems with those regulations. But I think it'd be helpful to figure out exactly how we got here. Two regulations come into the public realm all at once. It just so happened the timing of it was that we've been working on different things as a commission on how we want to improve the regulations that haven't been addressed in decades. The chicken was new, the lighting is old. We've had lighting regulations that actually refer to, for the Northford District, in the regulations, we're talking about all lighting in Northford Center shall have mercury vapor, high pressure sodium lamps to be consistent with within a single development. Now, who wants to put high pressure sodium if you can even get it? So that was a red flag for us from the very beginning to what are we going to do with these regulations. The other issue is it dictates in the regulations in Northford that all the light poles are to be 6 inches square and dark finish. Well, that's nice, but maybe it doesn't go with the developer. Why are we dictating what the guy needs to put in his development? It should be left up to him. But then most regulations revert back to the one that's out on the website. Again, homepage, go to departments, planning and zoning, right click, go down to quick links, lighting regulation amendments, and you find a regulation that most of you are here. It crosses out all of the original lighting regulations, 41.2.11. And what we found as we reviewed the lighting regulations over the past year, that there was over 76 different refers to lighting in our regulations with multiple different components to each lighting regulation. So we wanted to combine the regulations into one reg and have that referred to for everyone. It just so happens that in May of this year, the state of Connecticut put out a beautiful document called Lights Out Connecticut, a model municipal dark sky lighting policy for Connecticut, May of this year. It fell right within the time frame for us to discuss lighting as a whole. Unfortunately, we didn't take the opportunity to have a meeting with stakeholders and see how everyone else felt about it, see if there's a security concern, see if there's an issue with the lighting regulations as written. We only identified that it was outdated and we wanted to update it. So in part, we incorporated the entire regulation put together by a bunch of individuals, of which I do not know who they are. And it's pretty comprehensive, as you know. I take exception to the regulations as written, as imposed, as presented. There's a lot of information in there. That I have concerns about. First off, the applicability of this regulation really refers to more businesses than homeowners, but I'm not sure about that. The way it's written, I'm a little confused myself. Anytime you make a change in your property, you're supposed to have a building permit. And it says that non-residential buildings. So right off the bat, it's kind of excluding the fact that homeowners are not going to be impacted by this regulation. That's the theory anyway. The other component of it is I like to have my lights on at night. I live on a cul-de-sac and it's dark as sin in my street, and my neighbors have their lights on. There's no street lights on the cul-de-sac and it's dark. Now just imagine if you're in a business and you want to protect your property and you only have a security light. that only goes on when someone's on your property. I don't think it's going to be ample enough to identify the guy coming onto your car, cutting out your catalytic converter, the way these regs are written. Again, it was from someone who, a group of individuals who believe that they're trying to, what's the word, avoid sky glow caused by upward illumination, avoid light trespass onto adjacent properties, reduce glare, raise public awareness of any conservation, improve public safety through proper lighting. That sounds kind of oxymoron to me. I don't think so. But then again, I didn't write them. And reduce light pollution. It's interesting how these regulations are regulating, from our last testimony, how they're concerned about light from greenhouses. Really? In Northford, from my house, I can see the glow from New Haven. These regulations should be for them, and they turn up their lights and make it dark for them. But that's not the case. It's more for us than them. Us versus them. More control. That's the way I read these regulations more than anything else. We learned from last testimony that the implication in this regulation, which I don't know how other towns are handling it that have farmers that have large expanse of greenhouses, but to meet the regulations, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that need to be spent to meet these regulations. This regulation says that you're going to have 98% of artificial light. You shall screen or block light emitting from the roof of a greenhouse, 98% of the light. Now, it's great to have that in your regulation. I'm not going out there in the middle of the night with my light meter to see how much light's coming through the top of a greenhouse. So again, the state of Connecticut puts out this guidance document thinking that, oh yeah, it's beautiful. I don't think so. So I'd like to change it. It's also somewhat ambiguous at some point. Under light trespass, it says light source shall not be visible from an adjacent property. I think that's a misunderstanding. Physics, okay. That's okay. So anyway, now you know where we got this regulation from, how we got here. It's proposed as a draft. That's why we're here in a public hearing to have public testimony for this particular topic. I like to try to keep it under an hour, if that's possible. If we need to go longer, I'll continue it to the next meeting so everyone has a chance to speak. But at this point in time, I think I captured everything that we wanted to talk about. So what I'd like to do is open up to the public discussion for anybody in favor of these regulations can come up and speak in favor of. Anyone in favor of? Anyone else? Hearing none, let's move on to those opposed to it. Again, try not to be repetitive, and please keep your comments about 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Luke Potter, Middletown Avenue. I have oppositions and I have operational questions for you people. Have you contacted and discussed with the following agencies and groups? Have you personally sat down with the fire department, the police department, Department of Public Works, farmers, trucking companies, even the EDC? These are all groups that you need input from, and you have to do it face to face. Darkness causes crime to climb. Car dealers need lights because their security cameras need to see every inch. You turn those car dealer lights off, you're going to find all the tires on the wheels, or maybe not even the cars in the morning. Same with stores, garden centers, power equipment dealers. Crooks love darkness. If needed, a well-lit parking lot for the fire department could be a safe staging area for firemen and their equipment if they have an emergency nearby and they have to supplement with with fresh firemen and fresh equipment. And nothing better than a well-lit parking lot where safety with men and equipment moving could be practiced. So again, if that was a dark parking lot, the danger to safety would be hard for them to control. there would be not adequate lighting for safety. Public Works, the gas pumps are on 24/7 for the police and the fire department. What are you gonna do? Turn the lights off so they have to try to read the meter? Police and fire are using them constantly. During storms, a snowstorm, Public Works gets called out. They have to hook the trucks, the plows to the trucks. They have to put sand in the trucks. You want them to do that in the dark? I don't think so. But during storms, they're going to have more than they normally need for light because the snow is going to be blocking clear lighting in the areas they work. So, I mean, I can go on and on. I'm going to go to page 2 because I do want to stay within my time. Farmers, you heard them last time. They very good work hours. They don't work 8 to 5. There's no sun up at 3 a.m. in the morning. They need ample light with loading trucks and tractors because that's when their day starts. Bright, safe working areas are needed. You can't ask them to start their day in the dark. It's not going to be safe. Trucking companies, if you ever notice, they're running 24/7. They're moving trailers around. And they're getting ready for the next day deliveries. So again, the trucking company, you need to talk to them. Talking to all departments and groups affected should be done first, and then once you have their input face to face with you guys, then you can work more. I stopped and I talked to Chief Lovelace. He has heard nothing from anybody about this. An 8.5 piece of paper doesn't cut it. You need face to face input before you even attempt to change anything. Because like that lady said, once you have a regulation in place, you're never going to get it out of here. So I'm asking you to say,
Back it up, please.
oh, I got just one more sentence.
No, one more sentence.
As it stands, I feel our town offers too much information to allow this. Doesn't, you need more information. I think it should be pulled off the agenda and pulled off the table. Thank you.
Hi, Donna Persley, Marjorie Drive. I'm an amateur astronomer, so obviously dark skies are important to me. I've been here in front of the planning and zoning and town council before about lights. Now this, originally I thought it was good, but I think it puts too much attention on the birds and it has too much lights out. I think what we need to do is just redo our regs that we have, take out the sodium and the mercury vapor and put in LEDs, put in proper lumens. Our regs now are very good, actually, but they are not enforced at all. We have new buildings. The building at Town Center in Norfolk, the one that just went in, has bad lighting. Now, there can be good lighting. There's a car dealer on Branford Hill that has proper lighting. Joni Harrison has proper lighting, and the parking lot is lit very well, and you can see what you're doing. So it's not being unlit, it's being lit, but it's being lit properly, where you don't have glare. You know, like when you see headlights coming at you from a bright truck, and you can't see, that's glare. We try to avoid the glare so it's more safe. We still want things lit, but we don't want things overlit. We don't want to make it unsafe. So that's, I think we should probably not do the lights out Connecticut version with the birds. Maybe put something in there, but I think it's a little bit too restrictive. I think what we really need to do is update our current regulations and make sure we have the full cutoff installed correctly. Light trespass, you have lighting, your neighbor's light is going into your bedroom window all night long. Is that good? No. Do you want to call? You probably don't call anybody to enforce it. But who needs to want to put blackout shades on their bedroom window just because your neighbor's light is constantly shining in your window? People should be good neighbors, have proper lighting, have enough security. I mean, the criminals love good lighting because they can see what they're doing. I mean, it's been proven that too much lighting helps the criminals. It doesn't deter them. And I think we should continue this because as it's written, it's actually making our regulations weaker. So I like it the way they are. I just would prefer them to be enforced.
Okay.
Good evening. Don Capelli, 666 Tucket Road, Norfolk. This proposal states its purpose is to improve public safety. However, requiring all commercial buildings and residential buildings, the way I read it, it's very ambiguous. So the way I'm seeing it, it also includes every home in town. Parking lot sidewalks to be dark after 11 p.m. is not going to increase public safety. With the rampant crime that our town has been experiencing in the last few years, with roaming groups of juveniles stealing cars, tires, and catalytic converters at will, the last thing we as property owners would want to do is decrease our security lighting, leaving our tenants with even less security than they have now. The proposal states whenever a building permit is required, it would trigger the regulation. Whenever an existing light is modified, refurbished, repaired, or serviced, what is there to service in a light except a light bulb? Triggers the regulation. And whenever a site plan review is required. This would apply to virtually every commercial building in town. Within the first year, everyone's servicing their lights, taking out permits for one item or another. As the only exceptions are for police stations and firehouses, this means all homeschooled parking lot sidewalks will be dark after 11. I've had discussions with the North Branford Public Schools maintenance and security staff, as well as our police chief, and they know nothing about these changes. They do not know that their schools will be required to be dark after 11 p.m. So this needs to go a little bit further. I believe this proposal should be scrapped in its entirety, and a better look at the existing proposal being modified to bring it up to current standards. Thank you.
Can I have the next?
Don.
Your name again?
Don Capelli.
Thank you.
Hey guys, how you doing? So, before I ask, I'm Bruce Abelson, 60 Youngs Apple Orchard Road.
Okay.
Before I go into this, I actually pulled up the regulation from the state of Connecticut. It's about 4 pages. Kind enough, I'd like to read it. It's for everybody to understand.
3 minutes.
I know, that's why I'm saying.
Can you summarize it, Bruce?
Well, I was just reading it. Basically, you were going through it. There are a couple of things in it. So I'm just going to go through it. All right. So this is the regulation from the state of Connecticut. It's the Audubon Society that put it out. Okay. So you can actually go and I should actually ask you to go and look it up. Just Google it, and you can bring it up. What they're talking about, the 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. regulation, basically is state-owned property. So it doesn't affect the homeowner, okay? It's only on state-owned property. There are people here, business owners, who own businesses in town, who are very concerned because they, as Cliff Potter put it, we need lighting because that's what I do for a living. As far as I'm a security guy, you need lighting for security to catch the people who are stealing the cars and things like that. So we need lights. It doesn't deter the thieves. It does help us catch them. That's important. So that's. I just wanted to go through that. So I just want you to understand that you should go and look up what the rules and regulations are. I haven't looked at your regs, your I apologize. But the 11 to 6 is for state-owned property only. Am I correct with that? Or is that something that you would do?
There was a public act passed in 2023 that created the state
Yes,
regulations.
state-owned property only, so it doesn't actually apply.
Not at all.
To any of our homes or our businesses. Okay. And a lot of the lighting regulations that you're putting out there, yeah, the 95%, things like that, they're in the regs. So I just want you to understand, you should Google the document and read it. It's like a 5-minute, and you'll actually get more understanding of what they're trying to do. I'm not for it, okay? I think you should actually table it and do some more research before you come to us and ask us to change the zone. Thank you.
Can I have your name and address again? I can't hear down here. I can't hear down here, so I need your name and address again.
Bruce Abelson.
Abelson?
Abelson, 60 Youngs Apple Orchard Road.
Thank you.
That was
Victor Peter Andrea, 123 Beach Street, North Branford. So I heard everybody talking here, and the regulations are pretty clear. This is a non-profit organization that actually created this from lobbyists. You guys aware of this? Yes?
Yes.
You aware of this?
Yeah.
So if you're passing and trying to make a bill or change regulations on a non-profit organization, I do this for a living. It's going to cripple this town. So instead of getting into it and hammering everybody that I'm friends with on that board, I suggest that not table it, scrap it, make a vote. Don't let any member tell you on this board that once this is over, you guys got the votes. Stop it and extract it. Make a motion, get a second, put it to a test tonight. Dave Perkins is our zoning enforcer, whatever he does at the town. It's right here as clear as day. It is a non-profit organization. We're trying to pass regulations from a non-profit group. So what are you going to tell the auto body shop owners? The guy that owns a trailer depot, Al Rose that owns Rose's Orchard, Colombo Trucking, when they all get their stuff stolen at 11 o'clock at night because we got no lights. Security cameras only go 30 feet. With lights, they go 150. We need those to deter everybody. I get it, everybody, like you said, everybody, you're not getting paid for it, but there's everybody in this room at the table on that. We donate 90% of our time to this town. None of us get paid. But this is wasting taxpayers' time to show up. And you should have known better than to try to put something forward, or any of you guys, that's a non-profit. It doesn't even correlate with what we're doing in this town. It has no merits. So when this is done, guys, you guys got the power. Put it to a test, get a second, and just get rid of it. Don't listen to one member saying you can't do this and you can't do that. You got the power. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Vogt, Foxen Road. As Victor's neighbor, I appreciate his lights very much because they keep the trespassers out of our property. Personally, I had some issues with the new library at Atwater when it was built, because our tax dollars go to pay the utility bills of all our public buildings in town. And here we had a new library that was lit up unbelievably all night long. The books needed to have light. And I went and asked the library director at the time, why is your building all lit up when it's closed? And they said, there are regulations, we have to keep it open. And it was, I don't recall exactly, but I'm remembering something about a Connecticut state regulation, not necessarily a town. I would not oppose these lighting regulations for our town non-essential public buildings like the library. Why can't they shut their lights off inside at night? I don't think there's too many people stealing books these days. Personally, as an older person, and I think a lot of our town is older at this point, I have a problem seeing at night when I drive. I appreciate every single light that's on that road, whether it comes from the street lights, which are not all that many, and every building along the roads that guide my way so I can see where driveways are, where turnoffs are. The thought that I have to drive through Northford, coming down 22, or from Wallingford at 150 at night, and not being able to see where the turns are because all the gas stations are turned off, all the business lights are turned off, that's scary for me. So I don't think mandating private businesses to do that is a very kind thing to do for businesses in our town. And to retrofit, to meet these regulations, whether it comes to changing a light bulb that qualifies as a permit issue, is very costly, and I don't think it's fair to small businesses in town to make them do that. We scrape by with every dollar, and our businesses, we still have mercury vapor lamps. I put them on when I walk my dog, and then I shut them off. And like I said, I thank Victor for him keeping his lights on because it keeps my property safer. And I think that this is trying to force Connecticut rules for their state buildings onto everyone in town. If you want to put it on our own public buildings, not necessarily the schools, maybe the schools can have interior lights off, but their exterior lights should definitely be on. And do that and see how you guys like it when you arrive in town to go to your job in the morning or coming home at night and your parking lot is dark. It's not going to be fun. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to?
How you doing? Dave Palumbo, 77 Glen Meadow Drive, Northford. So you've heard a lot of rhetoric tonight. I'm in opposition of it. I have businesses in town. We have been, some of my complexes have been broken into. My tenants have had cars stolen, wheels stolen, fuel out of my truck stolen, radio stolen, fuel out of my truck stolen. I have multiple shifts that work in my facilities, and I can't take a chance on having my people work at night and not have light in my yards. I'm all for not blinding my neighbors or being a good neighbor, but we can't have dark parking lots. We can't have dark buildings. One of my complexes on Foxen Road, we see all the traffic that comes up Route 80. We had a vehicle broken into last week, one of my tenants. Without lights, you're just inviting more problems. I think if there are regulations that are in effect, look at the regulations we have. Improve what we have that's already there. Don't make more regulations or make us have dark lots. That's ludicrous. There's a multitude of businesses here tonight. I'm sure they all agree. Whether they work at night or they have lights on for security, like my place, and I have people working at night. I can't have people in lots and potentially getting hurt either. So, I know you guys have a tough job, and I appreciate all your time and what you do. We're all involved in town. I've been in town my whole life as well. Like a lot of us, we want to do the right thing, but I'm going to tell you, dark lots is not the answer. They're really not. if there's an issue with a light that's shining in someone's house or someone's backyard, that's a different story. But if you're in a commercial zone and you have lights, you need them. Again, it's just inviting more problems coming into town with dark clouds. So, thank you, appreciate your time.
Good evening again. Victoria Caroline, 63 Great Hill Road, North Branford. We currently have regulations in place, and if we enforce them, then that would take care of the issue. What they're proposing, and I worked for an oil company for 25 years, is what we used to call the Dark Sky Society that came up with these kind of regulations. And we fought them many times when we were lighting canopies to keep people safe. So I've seen regulations like that before, unnecessary, and for the safety of people, we need lighting, especially at buildings that like Big Y and whatever. We currently have one here in North Branford that was approved not too long ago, that's on the corner, that's a medical building across from Rose's. There's nobody there at night. They have lights that are there that shine out into the highway on both directions that are blinded. We have current regulations. Somebody must have approved the lighting plan that was proposed with that building. But when you have an empty building, there is no reason to have all of those lights on at night where you blind people on that corner. And it's brighter there than it is at the Big Y. So I would appreciate it if somebody could take a look at that issue and address it. Thank you.
Al Rose, 40 Valley Road. We do have regulations on the books, and I think you guys need to scrap this idea and just tweak the ones that you have. And I do agree that new medical building, the lights look like they're all right, but I think the direction that something we're aiming need to be looked at. But for us at our end of the town, that's, Stop and Shop's lights and all that, are there. But my biggest problem with lighting is Blakesley's pre-stressed concrete. They have lights that are so bright, and I live in the middle of the farm, and they shine into my bedroom, and they have for years. I thought of shooting them out. I've talked to the guy over there. I'm like, why are these lights so bright? What are you doing? And so when you call Branford zoning, they say, oh, that's in North Branford. You call North Branford zoning, that's in Branford. So in reading, and I missed this, the last public hearing, but reading some of the stuff that's in there. So number one, we had like a one-page lighting regulation. This thing we have now looks like it's 7 pages. It is by the Kentucky Audubon Society, which I agree, they're a nonprofit. They actually own some land next to one of my subdivisions. I had a boundary dispute with them. And when Bobby Cristola, God rest his soul, had to get a hold of them to settle the boundary, they're a bunch of rich people in California. So I'm not sure we need them to be writing, and I don't know who owns it, and if they still do, but 20 years ago, that's who the Audubon Society was. So I would let them worry about stuff where they live. We're not, thanks to what you know how I feel on it. Those medical buildings across the road there, they did not come before this board per one zoning meeting. Robert Sachs took the property through and got a medical building in there. So somehow, this magic of the state of Connecticut giving $5 million, and, you know, I talked to zoning, I talked to engineering, they didn't follow their site plan. They didn't have, they weren't before you guys once. For all of us, you know, us farmers that want to do something, it cost me $25,000 to have the engineer, the lawyers, and my farm winery approved. We get this thing built, and they don't come before you once. And the lighting's, you know, again, needs to be tweaked. But now we have that across the street. Nobody knows what they're going to be doing there. We have ideas of what they're going to be doing there. We know their operation in Branford has an awful lot of police calls every week. So if you think that I'm going to shut my lights off, you guys, good luck enforcing it. And I'm not alone with it, with any of this. And then the other thing I read, you guys want, and I'm not saying, I don't want, you guys don't mind.
You wrap it up, please.
I'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
I read in there that Christmas lights are supposed to go off at 11 o'clock. I got news for you. It costs me money to do. I put lights on the vineyard, and I leave them on all night. Because I have outdoor timers and stuff. In the first rainstorm, they don't work. I'm gonna light the vineyard. I get more comments from people all over the place, how beautiful it looks. And I'm not gonna shut them off. So, good luck with your regulations.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to? Going once, going twice, anyone else? Oh, you? We almost got out of here.
As you drive home, if you go by Town Hall tonight, you'll see a farm hall lit up with floodlights and seasonal harvest decorations. And if you ask me to stop turning that thing off, drop. This is a farming town. It's just to emphasize we're a farming town. And I enjoy doing it. I do it under the proper permission, and I get the right people to donate their time and resources. So that's going to stay lit as long as the lights in the town hall are staying lit. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Alan C. Francesco, 42 on the road. There's a lot of citizens that got up here, a lot of good points. I'd like to refer a lot of the ones that were pointed out by Victor, a bunch of other business owners in here. This should be scrapped. There used to be a time in this town when I used to sit next to Ron, where anytime we had a topic and consider, let's bring this to the table, let's investigate stuff, all the departments were reached out to by our zoning secretary, getting into the, and not just this item line appearing Monday morning, Tuesday morning in our emails or in our mailbox for us to freshly look at that none of you guys had an idea on. And from what I understood at the last meeting, that's what all you guys said. With the chicken reg and this reg, none of you guys knew about this before it went to public hearing for the public's input or any of the departments.
Yeah.
So my main point that hasn't been made tonight, because I'm not going to repeat anything else, is there was a time we used to do this in town where, A, we want to do lighting or whatever the topic is, reach out to all the different departments, talk with them, communicate with them, reach out with them, and see, is it necessary to create something completely new? Or do we have existing, bring it forward, and then we bring it to a public hearing? A lot of people on the board that I see right now, I think the past couple of years, you guys have been doing a great job with that. You do everything that comes to your table, and being able to discuss that and say, hey, we have something great here, now I think we're ready to bring it to the public's eyes and get their feedback on it. Because you already talked to all the departments. All of you guys do your due diligence on that and everything that are on the board. So, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Anyone else? Okay. What I'd like to do is we're continuing the chickens. I'd like to continue this topic till the next meeting as well, in case we come up with something that's new and exciting. We'll put it on the website. Like I mentioned before, the home page, departments, planning and zoning, the quick links are in that public hearing section of the homepage. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this public hearing open to the next meeting so we can have further discussion on this topic. So I appreciate you coming out tonight. We're going to take everything else into consideration as you mentioned, and give us more time to look at it and also give the public a chance to digest a little bit more. And that's our proposal at this point in time. So we're going to continue this until our next meeting. This concludes this topic on the agenda. Next line item is old business. There isn't any old business unless there's new business. Dave, do you have any new business for us? No. Look like it at this point in time. And then other business, number 7, is zoning reg updates and a conversation with Scrog on affordable housing.
We put that off until December, probably.
Okay, so we're going to push off the conversation with affordable housing till December. Okay. Planners report, Dave.
I have no report.
So we have, I noticed, public hearing notice for next meeting. For Duties wants to change the zone from residential to B1, right?
Correct.
Okay. Besides these 2 ongoing
This
items,
is the 830G application.
it's an 830G application.
This one on Branford Road as well.
Okay. Do you need to state anything else? We're on Branford Road, Dave, do you know? That's next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a residential zone. There are 3 buildings on the lot. 2 of them are residential. The third one was a barn. The barn was converted to a residential use. The zoning enforcement officer issued a cease and desist order, and it went to court, and the owners were told that they could no longer use that extra building as a residential structure because you can't have multiple buildings on a single lot.
Okay. Yep.
So recently, they started using that building again as a residential building, and I informed them that they couldn't do that, and they stopped. And then they sold the lot to somebody else, saying that the third building could be occupied. So, again, I told them no, it couldn't be occupied, gave them a court order. So what they want to do is the 830G is the Affordable Housing Act. And if you create at least 30% of the units in your development as affordable housing, then you're not required to follow the zoning regulations of the underlying zone. So in this case, they're going to make that third dwelling unit an affordable housing unit, and it will be 33% of the development being over the 30% threshold. So the only way you can actually deny this application is through a health, safety, welfare issue, that there's too much traffic, or the fire marshal won't be able to handle it from a fire issue, unless there's a environmental issue. But you can't use any of your zoning regulations to deny it. So it's a creative answer to their problem.
Is there something put forward as an application? Is there an application put forward?
No, this will be next time. I have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's December's meeting, Dave? December's meeting or our 21st?
I believe it's the 21st.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the action items, and this is just because I personally know other people in the past have been by the state or commission. In one of the action items in the plan of conservation is that you're supposed to be changing that zoning reg to move it up more opportunities for housing. And so I'm just wondering why you're not doing that. Because there are people in town.
You're off the subject.
But it's the same thing.
It's not. I'm talking about a specific project.
Of course, an answer. We don't take questions from the audience.
No, it's on Branford Road. No, it's on Notch Hill Road. If you call me tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to. It's closer to the tree place. It's pretty far south. I'm sorry. I'm on 139.
No, I know that's the way I go home. I know this building. There's no one.
It's on the road side of the street, and it's just north of the tree, people who cut the trees down. Witowski. It's just a couple doors up from there.
Okay.
All right.
Pitch over to me.
Mike. Okay. Dave, that it? We're good?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to number 9, adjournment.
After an exciting evening, remember Veterans Day is coming up. It's a very good idea to take a veteran to lunch, preferably dinner. I have a check-off sheet here. You can sign up and take me out to dinner. I motion we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second? Paul, you second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.